Yo, welcome to Music is a Day Job. I'm your host, Sean. I'm also the CEO of Qoncert. Qoncert is an artist accelerator app that takes artists from opener to headliner to on tour and gives the best in independent shows to the consumer. so, um, After the video we made about artists going on tour, I got a lot of questions because we started putting our tours on Concert. And so a lot of artists have asked, how do I go on tour with Concert? Because in that video that we talked about artists going on tour, I briefly spoke upon the idea of it's easier when you go through Concert to start getting your own tours and building the amount of shows and not having to be on a label and not having to front the money at all these venues and everything like that, because Concert already has the shows available, and then we can possibly create a tour. And so I wanted to break down just the three steps to get to the point to being a touring artist with the Concert app, so then you can see how easy it is to just go on tour. You know what I'm saying? Like, once we start building into other states, it'll be easier for you to go from state to state, of course, even inside your own state, because we talked about how inside your own state you can still go on tour, because it's probably 8 to 9 different cities that are big enough to actually accommodate artist that is doing venues that are around the capacity of 100 to 500. So most artists that are at a that start taking music seriously to get to the point of making music a day job, they're probably in that 100 to 500 person capacity venue in the majority of venues that they actually tour in. So you could actually have 8 places in your own state. Probably some states probably have like 15 places you can do that. And so you need to know that, because that's the easiest way to tour for the least amount, because touring costs a lot, of course. So when you're touring state to state, you're looking at planes, hotels, you're looking at driving around those cities. Sometimes you need to get you got to get a vehicle when you're there. Of course, food and everything like that. So then it ends up like racking up very quickly. So when you're inside your own state, what happens is you're able to do those same type of touring patterns, but it can cost you less because you can always go back home. You don't have to stay there. You know what I'm saying? You're just down the street. You can take food, you can do whatever. But so there's 3 steps with concerts so you can start touring. And the first one is, of course, use the app. That's number one of this. Is just getting on the app. Soon it will be available in for Androids, and right now it's only for iOS. But staying in contact with us, signing up for the Google version that'll be released to say, hey, you know what I'm saying, I'm ready for this version, and then of course getting us into the other states and building from there. But right now, when you use the app, you get on and you start seeing the slots of shows that are available. So you want to start, picking shows that'll work for you, that you can um, do the best you can with some of the amount of tickets for whatever show that is, whatever the details are for that show. So you can start building that like fan base wherever you are. You got to start building that fan base, and that's the goal of this. Is if you understand how to control your fan base, then you can control anything. So you start building that fan base. You get on the app, you're looking for shows, you're starting to pick your shows, you're starting to go like, hey, I'm gonna do this show, I'm gonna do this show, whatever. Boom, boom, boom. That's the first step of this, because that's the main ingredient. Is that the difference is concerts different than what the industry usually presents. It's not that easy for you to do it when you have to find all the promoters, you have to either pay the venues and all that stuff like that. It's already done right here. So now you're sitting there and you're picking your shows. After you do your shows, you're building your resume. That's number 2. Build your resume. So once you know you're starting to get a fan base. You go from maybe 10 tickets, 15 tickets, 20 tickets, 30 tickets, and then you're at the space of, after you're over 30 tickets, you're at the spot of doing the third step. But before I get to that third step, when you're building your resume, that's the thing about Concert is different than everything else, is because we keep your resume. So then, when in other situations where someone could be like, you maybe had done this show over here and this show over here, and no one remembers, or no one will take your word for it, because the venue might not take your word for it, or a promoter might not take your word for it. with Concert, what we're doing is we're keeping that resume. So then I know you did these shows and stuff like that, and you did this well. So then that resume builds up to say, hey, this person's ready for the next step. So that gives you an actual blueprint of being like, yo, once I get to this level, this is where I'm at. And the third is becoming a headliner. Once you become a headliner, that means you've done over 30 tickets or more as an opener, and then you get to the point where you're ready to headline. You're ready to headline in that city that you've gotten to that point. And headliners usually bring 50 people. Now, the logic of this is, of course, when you're in 200, 300, 400 person venues, the headliner needs to at least be bringing in 50 people. So that's where I cut the cap off. And then from there, artists can make money. So, of course, if you're bringing in 100 people, that's dope. You're making tons of money. If you're bringing 150 people, you're making $1,000. That's all what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? So you're trying to get to that point where you're that headliner that's bringing in enough people to control the whole night and basically have all the fans there. And you look like what these nationals with labels behind them look like. And once you become a headliner and you're a headliner that is ready to start moving, that's the only three prerequisites to get to this headliner idea. So then now you're starting to look at, hey, can I build in these other cities? I want to build, I might only have 5 in another city, or I might only have like 10 fans, or I might, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to go build them now. So at that point, I'm reaching out to Qoncert to be like, yo, I'm ready to go to these other cities that are around me, and I'm ready to start building that tour. So, and that's how easy it is. It's just that easy, which is crazy to think, because in this world, the way you would have to have done it was you would have to had either known promoters in all these other cities. So you'd have to either figure that out, or you'd have to pay all these other venues and hopefully they let you in there to get a night and book a night. So then you're kind of stuck if you don't do that. Otherwise, you have to be on a label where a label already pays for everything and then actually takes all the money from what you would have made. Now, if you're doing this correctly, what you're trying to do is you're trying to go like, hey, I have 50 here. I have 50 or more in my main city. Then in the other city, I got 10, 10, 10, and maybe like 20 over here. So then I'm going to run it one time. And then the next time I want the 10s to be 20s to 30s, and I want the 20s to be 40s. And I want my 50 in my main city to start making me money. And the 30s that are like going over 30 in those other cities, then that's making you money too. So then you're just starting to go in circles and then hitting all these places and just start building your fan base in each one. And you'll just start gaining the traction, gaining the traction. And then you're just adding more cities. Then you're going like, hey, I'm going to add this next city. And then I'm going to get 5 and then move to 10, move to 20, whatever like that, wherever you're at in those cities. And then you just start expanding. And so from that point forward, as you get to over 150 in each city, then you start making that money that you need to make to be like, okay, this is probably what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And that's when you make that decision to say, hey, I'm making 100, I have 150, I have around 150 fans, all these cities, let's say 10 cities, as I said, and then you're making like $1,000 a night. So then you're bringing in $10,000 in the 10 cities. And then that didn't count your merch or your sponsors. And so at that point, that's when you're like, hey, I'll go this quarter. That $10,000 covers 2 months of living, which would be, and then your sponsors and your merch should cover the 3rd month. And then at that point, I'll go back out again and do it again. And that should be the goal of everyone. And that's how easy it is with Qoncert. And then you just start rotating and rotating and expanding. Maybe one day you get to a point where you're like that in 20 cities, and then you just go hit it. You just go hit the 20 cities probably over 2 to 3 months. And that's how you do it. And then you just live how you live. And that's what this whole thing is about. Turning music into a day job. And that's how you do it with Qoncert when you start booking these tours. So shout out to all the artists that are actually already starting to book tours. Today, we've already released one officially on the website. And then we're releasing the other, I think it's four other acts that will be releasing their tour very soon. So definitely jump on the app and start booking getting to the point where you can book a tour. And if you're already on the app and you're already ready to book a tour and you're already a headliner, then reach out and let's start talking about booking a tour. And that's how it goes. And that's how you start building to turn music into a day job.